Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and this flight has two purposes. For one, I'm going to play around with panoramic shots and just entertain myself with that. And then also I'm going to take a look at some of the leftover damage that was done by all of our floods. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to get up 100 feet above my son's house and take a panoramic 180-degree panoramic shot looking west and looking east. And we'll see what we can get here. Now, I was experimenting, so actually we're looking south here, but I turned the drone around when it was time to take the pictures, so I'm just getting it up to the height. So anyway, and then I'll be also telling a story. I haven't told a story for a long time because I've kind of run out of stories, but I'll tell you this one as soon as we get these pictures shot. There we go. That's looking directly west from my son's house, and that's looking directly east. So it's like we're on the edge of civilization because there's nothing but sagebrush and mountains out there. So anyway, this is where I left off doing that, and we'll go look at some of the things that are going on in our so-called neighborhood. All right, and I'll tell you a story. Now, this story is one that I've told many times. So let me start at the beginning. When I was 9 years old, my grandma took me to hear Billy Graham when he was in Seattle in 1951, and that's when I trusted Jesus. And since then, God has taken really good care of me, and it's been a real blessing knowing that I'm being taken such good care of. So I start with that, and then we'll move ahead to about 40 years ago when I was married. It's my second marriage, but I was married to my wife, and we had our first little daughter, and she was less than a year old. Now, there's where the tree tipped over, got blown over in a windstorm, and now they've cut it up into little firewood. So, and then further down the street here, there was another big old tree that got blown down. So anyway, it was me, my wife, and our little less than 1 year old daughter, and it was Thanksgiving season, and so we packed up the car. I lived over in the southeast corner of Washington in a town called Pasco, and my folks lived on the western side of the mountains, south of Seattle, in a town called Sumner. Now, if you look straight down here, I'm going to stop and look at this. There's a stump laying on the right side of that road. And on the left side of the road, you can see a bunch of dirt and everything from where that tree tipped over in the windstorm. So anyway, that's all that's left. They didn't keep any firewood there, I guess, but I don't know how they're going to get rid of that stump. It's huge. So anyway, we went over to my folks for Thanksgiving in Sumner, Washington, and my older sister lived in Auburn, which is 10, 15 miles north of Sumner. And so we went over there actually, I don't know why my folks didn't go, but my sister invited us over for Thanksgiving dinner. So we went over and had a nice dinner and visited quite a while and really enjoyed ourselves. And so anyway, and then coming back, between Auburn and Sumner, there's just a little 2-lane road, or there used to be anyway. And so we left. It was about midnight when we finally got around to close, to stop visiting. And so we got in. We had an old Ford station wagon, which we got used, was probably third hand when we got it. So anyway, we piled into the car and started heading south from Auburn to get on. We had to go down on this little back road, and then we went through an underpass and made a left onto the on-ramp onto the freeway that went to my folks, and so we probably went about 10 miles on the little back road, and then it was only about 2 miles up the freeway until we turned off to where my folks lived. So anyway, we're just going along. It's sometime around midnight, and there's no cars on the road. Thanksgiving night, everything was pretty much silent. So we drove along, and we came to where we went underneath the. By the way, look at how green the desert is from all of our rain. We've had more rain. They want a hawk. We've had more rain in the last month than Phoenix gets all year round. So everything, the desert is green and beautiful, and it won't stay that way forever. But anyway, we've had so much rain that it's just turning everything green. And down here below us, they've been harvesting this field, and I don't know if you noticed, but one of the harvesting tractors was cutting a strip, and I didn't notice it when I was shooting the video because it was just the monitor is so hard for me to see anyway. And then here's where all the cattle are that I've videotaped many times. So anyway, so we went underneath the underpass, and then we turned left. There's a sharp left, and to go up the on-ramp onto the freeway. And as we got about halfway up the on-ramp, the lights went out, the motor quit, everything stopped. Now we found out later that our battery was old, and it had a short in it, but we had no idea what was wrong when that happened. So what I did was I just coasted back down on the on-ramp, and then turned around the corner. When I got down there, we could barely see anything, and ended up on the shoulder facing the opposite direction from which we had come. Now I'm gonna quote something from the from the book of Hebrews, chapter 13, and I want you to remember this because we're just about to the good part here. In chapter 13, verse 2, it says, "Be not forgetful to welcome strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unaware." Now, the key word there is strangers, which means that my wife is not an angel. But anyway, I think of her that way. So there's that tractor, and I was hoping I'd be able to see him do some cutting, but it didn't work out. So anyway, I backed around. I couldn't see a thing. It was pitch black. I tried to reach in, or I opened the hood, and I reached in, tried to find the battery, and the connections were okay, and everything was fine, when all of a sudden, here comes this. Remember, there were no cars on the road. Here comes this car coming the same direction we had come. The car drives right up and stops about 3 or 4 feet out in front of our car, his headlights shining. And so I thought, well, that's nice because now I can see inside my motor. So there was these the two guys got out, one on each side, and I asked him, I says, "Do you guys have jumper cables?" Now the driver of the car said this. He said, "I don't know. It's not my car." Now, why he was driving a car around midnight on Thanksgiving night and it wasn't his, there's no way for me to answer right now. But anyway, so with his lights shining, I couldn't find anything wrong. And so the next thing, he said, "Can we just give you a ride to wherever you're going?" And, well, I was a little bit hesitant, but in my jacket pocket, I did have a little canister of pepper spray. So I knew I had a little self-defense. And so I went back to the window, or to the driver's side of our car, and my wife was sitting there with our little daughter all wrapped up. I said, "These guys are willing to drive us home to my parents' house if you want." And both of us were really kind of concerned about that. But we decided, okay. So we got in their car. They followed our directions, and we directed them to my parents' house, and they stopped out front of the house. We thanked them and got out, went in the house, and my parents, of course, then my dad took us down to put a new battery in, which he had in his shop. But anyway, so that car sat out there idling for we were kind of wondering about it because the South are idling for like 10 minutes before they drove away. Now, remember the word strangers. The only thing I can account for is God sent a couple of angels, and they borrowed somebody's car, and they came along because it was cold. It was, I don't know how cold it was that night, but it was like close to freezing. And we would have had to sit there all night long, or maybe somebody would have come along. But as it turned out, these guys showed up. Now, I'm going to give God the credit for that because I don't know. I've got a couple other stories I could tell you that are similar to that. But I want to thank you for listening and watching my video, and God bless.